Okay, now let's start where we left off. Now, while I had the video off, I added a title. So sampling distribution for sampling mean with 5 observations. Added frequency over here for the y-axis, and these are sample means. They're not just numbers anymore, just any old numbers. They are the sample mean. Okay, and what I'd like to do is something similar to what I did with part 1, and I'd like to increase the number of observations with as little work as possible. So I'm going to start by going down here, copying the sheet. So move or copy sheet. I want to copy it, and I need to come up with a name. So instead of 9, I'm going to go with 45 and get rid of that 2. So 45 sampling distribution. I'm going to move it to the end, and I'll say OK, and there it is, and there's the same thing I had before. So everything looks really good here. Now, since I'm going to be adding a bunch more observations here, I kind of like to be able to look at my bins and frequency a lot easier than having them way over here to the right. And so I think what I'll do is I'll come in here, I'll highlight these 2 columns, and I'll say insert columns on the left, and then I'm going to come here, and now this is very important. I need to do a cut. So this is a true cut and paste, but if I do a cut in a spreadsheet, then everything will go wonky for a minute, but when I paste it, it should all be back and very happy. And so so I want to do a cut, not a copy, and then come back over here and do my paste, and see everything's back. It's very happy, and I'm happy. So we have all that stuff. Okay. Now, so once again, I'm going to move this down a little bit and make it a little shorter, and let's bring it in a little bit here. So, okay, so I can see that. Now, what I want to do is add columns in the middle here, and I can choose to start anywhere in the middle. So again, I'm going to enter columns on the left, so I could start here in F, G, H, or I, and start highlighting columns and say, insert on the left. But now what I want to do is go here, and I'm going to change the column width on all these, because you see these are wide. They don't need to be this wide, and it's it'll be hard to see what's going on. So, well, actually, I'm going to start way over here, and I'm going to make these all much smaller. And these are just little things to make your life a lot easier within this. Now that's about as small as I can make those. And so now, okay, I'm going to go out here, and so I'm highlighting these. I'm going to go way out here. By the time I get to Z, right, that's 26 or so, except I didn't start at the beginning, with A. So now I'll come down here, and so what I think is I'll go through the alphabet twice. That will be enough, right? Because that'll be certainly over 45 of these things. So I'm going to go there, and I've got all those top things highlighted, and somewhere here, column width. And I'm going to try, instead of 0.89, I'm going to go in there and try something as small as 0.3 and say OK. And I'm going to come back here And yeah, that looks just fine. So I'm happy with that, 0.3. And now, I may have to kind of redo things at time, or do more things, do this more than once, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But, you know, so I'm going to put more columns in the middle of the 5 observations. So here, I'm going to start in G, and I have 5 observations. I want 45 observations, so I need to add 40. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that gets old. And some spreadsheets will tell you exactly how many of these you've highlighted. I don't think mine does anywhere. So I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter. I can go here. I'm going to guess that AQ is about right. Okay, and I'm going to right click and insert my columns. And so now you see I've got this. Well, what I'm going to do is, just so I know whether I have the right number of columns, I'm going to click on that O2, grab this, start dragging it over, and I'm going to go right over top the ones I already had. And you see I got to 42. Now, the 0.3 is looking a little ugly here for these top things, but in some ways I don't really care. I just want to know that, oh, okay, I only made it to 42. Oh, well, then I need to add 3 more in there. Doesn't really matter where, as long as it's inside. So I'm just going to highlight those 3 and insert more columns to the left. And now, and notice what's nice is they're the same column width. And so now I'm thinking about it, I probably didn't need to change all those columns widths. I probably only needed to do the first 5. But hey, I make mistakes too and learn from them. Okay, so there I've got 45 columns, so that's 45 observations in each trial. And so now I'm just going to drag this over to fill in. And I can go to there. Now, here I'm going to do, with me, this will work for me, but actually I think this won't work in Excel. So what I would like to do at this point is just double click on this and fill the whole thing in. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to undo it just to show something here. But there, I filled it all in. Okay, I'm going to undo that. And it's got all that highlighted. But I think in Excel, because this 4 was highlighted and there's already data there, I don't think it will allow you to do that nifty little trick of filling in down below. So what you have to do is unselect everything, start at that 1 that's empty down below it, highlight over to here, and then you can do the double click and it will work. Okay, mine works either way, but Excel, actually in a lot of ways that's a little smarter of Excel maybe. It's more careful anyway, whether it's smarter or not, but it's definitely more careful in that. See, with that 4 highlighted, when I did that double click, it did all these cells down below the 4, and well, maybe I didn't really want to do that. Yeah. But at any rate, notice what happens now. Our sample means all got updated, our frequency got updated, and all I had to do was add some more columns in there, but I had to do it right. And now my sampling distribution, look what happened. Now it's between 3.5 and 6.5, gotten very, very narrow. Looks maybe kind of like somebody's giving us the finger or something. But anyway, almost all the observations are between 4.5 and 5.5, with very few, only about 100 or so, even between 3.5 and 4.5, and then 5.5 and 6.5, 100 in each of those. And so by going up in our observations, and I can edit this, so I say edit and click here, trying to click here, guess I got to double click, 45 observations. I hit enter. Ooh, that's ugly. Mess that up. There we go, much better. And click out here because I'm done. And so 45 observations, and but it looks very different. When we went from 9 to 45, yeah, I would say they look sort of different, but in other ways, not really. Again, these stretch out from 1 to 9. These, well, because we had so few observations, sure, they didn't all stretch out between 1 and 9 like this one did, though. It went from 1 to 9. This one 1 to 8. This one 1 to 9. It had some missing numbers in there, but again, we only found 9 numbers, so any repeats would automatically make something miss. Here, same basic shape, peaked in the middle, but by going to more observations, it is way narrower. Okay, that's a big thing about sampling distributions, in particular sampling distributions of the mean. The more observations, the more narrow. Now, we could change our bins to make this look a little different, so we could see more of what's going on. I don't think we'll do that in this lab. And the reason is, the thing I want to stick with you is how much narrower this distribution is than this one. Okay, we had 9 times as many observations, and all of a sudden, instead of going from as small as 1.5 and as big as 8.5, we're no bigger than 3.5, no smaller than 3.5, no bigger than 6.5. So that made a big, big difference, and the ones in here in the middle around 5, much, much more common. Okay, and that is a big, big take-home about sampling distributions of the sampling mean, is as we add observations, they will get narrower and narrower, even though they're coming from a population that, the population isn't changing. It's not getting narrower. The population are still the numbers from 1 to 9. But the means, as I add more observations to the mean, that gets much, much narrower. Okay, so we've seen that now for 45 observations.